It's one of the most anticipated fight weeks of the year, as UFC 300 is this Saturday. I knew for a fact that I would purchase this pay-per-view, and that I wouldn't miss breaking the fights down either. I didn't have too much time to watch every fighter's tape, but I am confident to have a little insight on previous fights I've watched. With that being said, let's start off with the early prelims. Starting the event off, we have a bantamweight bout between Deiveson Figueiredo versus Cody Garbrandt. Cody Garbrandt trains out of Team Alpha Male and mainly focuses on striking, while Figueiredo balances his skills out between all aspects of fighting. Both fighters have been pretty active in the past couple of years. I think Figueiredo will focus on leg kicks and grappling more than anything. Cody Garbrandt can be pretty reckless and has his chin in the air quite often. Figueiredo can definitely catch him, but I feel like this could go the distance as well. I'm sticking with Deiveson Figueiredo money line at -325. Continuing up the early prelims, we have a lightweight bout between Bobby Green versus Jim Miller. Jim Miller is the only fighter on this card that was also fighting at UFC 100 and UFC 200. Out of 54 fights, Miller has won 37 of them, with 20 of them coming by submission. Miller has only been knocked out twice, and I don't think he will get knocked out against Bobby Green. Out of 47 fights, Bobby Green won 31 of them with 20 finishes. We also have to consider it was only 4 months ago that he got brutally knocked out by Jalen Turner. I think this fight probably goes the distance, and if it does, I think Bobby Green definitely wins. If Jim Miller wins, I see it really only being by submission, so I'm picking Bobby Green to win by decision or Jim Miller to win by submission at -110. Moving up the card, we have a women's strawweight bout between Jessica Andrade versus Marina Rodriguez. Rodriguez is 4 years older than her opponent, but Andrade has more experience with 37 fights and 25 victories with 18 finishes. Out of Andrade's 12 losses, she has been finished 9 times, but most of them were championship-worthy opponents. The only time Rodriguez was knocked out was by Amanda Lemos in the 3rd round. Jessica Andrade has a very pressure-heavy fight style and is usually always going for the finish. I think she will secure the win, and I am picking a money line on her at -135. For the last fight on the early prelims, we have a fight night main event-worthy fight, Jalen Turner versus Renato Moicano. Let me just say, homie is in trouble. Moicano is just gonna do exactly what he did in his last fight against Drew Dober, and that's lay and pray. Every time he got touched by a clean strike, he would start to grapple. That's all he can really do. His stand-up is trash. Jalen Turner actually has decent grappling, so he can probably avoid getting submitted by Moicano, but Moicano is just gonna hold him against the canvas and try to get a decision win. Moicano doesn't have the best chin and has been knocked out 3 times before within the first 2 rounds. If Jalen Turner can manage distance well and have excellent timing, he will be fine. But I think Moicano is going to make this a boring fight and make it go to the distance. My pick is a double chance method of victory for Jalen Turner to win by decision or Moicano to win by submission at +205. Starting the main prelims off, we have a featherweight matchup, Sodiq Yusuff versus Diego Lopes. Lopes has only been in the UFC for a year, so he is new to the organization, but his record stands at 23 wins out of 29 losses. He has 21 finishes with 12 of them by submission, and he has been knocked out twice as well. I can see Diego Lopes winning in all ways, so I am picking a money line on him at -142. Continuing up the card, we have a bantamweight bout between Holly Holm versus Kayla Harrison. This fight will be Kayla's debut in the UFC. Out of 17 fights, Kayla has 16 wins with 12 of them by finish. while Holly has 15 wins out of 21 wins and has been knocked out once. All of their fights mostly go the distance, so that's how I'm thinking this plays out. I haven't seen much of their recent fights to understand their fighting style, but I'm picking this fight to go the distance at -125. Continuing up the prelims, we have a featherweight bout between Calvin Kattar versus Aljamain Sterling. Kattar wasn't active in 2023 and hasn't fought since October of 2022, while Aljamain, on the other hand, had 2 fights. Out of 30 fights, Kattar has won 23 of them with 13 finishes and has only been finished once by knockout and once by submission. Out of Aljamain's 27 fights, he has won 23 with 8 submissions and 3 knockouts. Sterling has been knocked out twice in the early rounds, but since this is only a 3-round fight, and since Kattar usually goes the distance, I think this fight most likely goes the distance. They have about the same experience, but Sterling is the more balanced fighter, so I'm picking a money line on him at -166. For the final fight on the prelims is a light heavyweight bout between Jiří Procházka versus Alexander Rakic. Out of 34 fights, Procházka has won 29 of them with 25 by knockout, but he has also been knocked out 3 times. Alexander Rakic trains out of American Top Team, and out of 17 fights, he has won 14 of them with 9 coming by knockout. They're relatively the same age, but Rakic has been in the UFC since 2017, and Procházka has been in the UFC since 2020. The only thing I worry about with Jiří is his head movement. He can get caught off guard real quick, so he has to level change when needed. They throw about the same amount of strikes, but Rakic absorbs way less than Procházka. Both fighters are hard to finish, so I think this one goes the distance, so that's my pick at +165. The first fight on the main card is a middleweight bout between Bo Nickal and Cody Brundage. Bo Nickal fought on Dana White's Contender Series twice, earning a contract the second time, and has won all of his UFC fights so far. All Bo Nickal's 5 wins come by knockout or submission in the first round. Cody Brundage has been in the UFC since 2021 and has won 4 fights and lost 4 as well. Bo Nickal is a very pressure-heavy fighter and will try to get Brundage out of there within the first round. Bo Nickal is most likely going to trade shots and strike for most of the match, but he can always level change at any moment. I say he remains undefeated and he gets the finish, so I'm picking double chance method of victory for Bo Nickal by knockout or submission at -900. Moving up the card, we have a lightweight bout between Charles Oliveira versus Arman Tsarukyan. Tsarukyan made his UFC debut in 2019 against Islam Makhachev and has won 8 out of his next 9 fights. Charles Oliveira has been in the UFC since 2010 and has made a staple of a career by mainly facing the top 15 contenders. Out of 43 fights, Oliveira won 34 of them with 31 finishes, and he has been knocked out 4 times. Arman Tsarukyan is a top rising contender, and his test will be this Saturday. I am going with double chance method of victory with Charles Oliveira to win by submission or Arman Tsarukyan by decision at +140. The next fight is my most anticipated fight of the card, and every UFC fan is excited for this. I honestly won't waste time with this one, because both guys are hard to put away, we already know that. Max has really fast movement and some of the best boxing in the UFC, but Gietz has ruthless leg kicks and has a granite chin. I originally thought this fight was only 3 rounds, but I found out it's a 5-round fight, so that changes my opinion, because I originally thought it would go the distance. Holloway's gas tank is unmatched, and he has had multiple 5-round fights, unlike Gietz. I think if this fight goes the distance, Holloway will most likely win because Gaethje slows down in the later rounds. I don't honestly see Holloway being knocked out, as we have never seen him get knocked out. It's possible, but I think this fight goes the distance at plus 100. The co-main event is a women's strawweight bout between Zhang Weili versus Yan Xiaonan. Both fighters are the same age, but Weili has more experience with her 27 fights than Xiaonan has with her 21 fights. Weili won 24 out of her 27 fights with 19 finishes, and this will be her second title defense. Xiaonan has 8 knockouts out of 18 wins, so I'm not worried about Weili getting knocked out. But Xiaonan can definitely win by decision. Xiaonan was knocked out by Carla Esparza, which is making me side with Weili, because Weili submitted Carla in the second round, earning the belt. I think there's a good chance this fight goes the distance, but since it's 5 rounds, I'm sticking with a money line on this fight on Zhang Weili minus 500. I'm not wasting any time breaking this one down, LOL. My original pick was a double chance method of victory with Alex Pereira by knockout or Jamal Hill by decision, but Dana White agreed to give out a $300,000 bonus for whoever gets performance of the night, so most of the fighters will try to knock each other out. Alex has no head movement whatsoever, but lethal leg kicks that he will most likely use to his advantage. Jamal Hill throws a lot of strikes, but doesn't generate too much power. If he focuses on power rather than quantity, I think he can win this fight, and I'm not counting him out. I think Alex Pereira most likely wins, but I'm gonna switch it up, since I haven't made a pick like this in this entire video, but my pick is knockout as the exact method of victory at minus 360.
Sorry for being a degenerate and not uploading in time.